This is the second part of this story. Please, follow the link in the right-hand top of the screen to go to the first part and come back to this video. This story is worth it. Update.
I'll start this off by asking that people please stop messaging me for pictures of the ring. I've gotten many asking me to see it for various reasons. Some even because they want a similar ring made as well. Well, I made my daughter aware of this Reddit account, and she's proud of me for doing it, but she doesn't want pictures of the ring online. That's her decision to make because the ring is hers. I don't need to question her as to why. I just need to respect her decision. I also don't like the idea of posting pictures of it because if it gets copied by total strangers, then it'd no longer be unique. I was willing to let my son copy the ring because it was a family matter, but I won't be posting it for everyone to see and replicate as they please. I've already long deleted the pictures of the ring I sent Jake, and the ring is locked away in a bank vault right now. It will not remain there permanently as I intend to get a better home safe to keep it in when I can afford it. In the past few weeks since my original post, I did have cameras installed and I'm thankful I did. For those wondering if my son and Sarah would get back together, no they did not. My son is apparently really selling his condo. He's not spoken to me since our last phone conversation where he told me to have a nice life with my favorite child after not getting his way. I have been to see my lawyer about my estate, and got my will altered. I haven't written my son out, but he's lost a lot of the things he would have otherwise inherited for the time being. After having some time to think, I've realized I just can't feel remorse for Jake anymore after his actions as of late. My daughter Amber calling him simp seems to be an apt description, once I found out what that meant. But I just don't want to be angry or sad about it anymore. Neither emotion is doing me any good. So, for now I'm just going to do my best to let it go and move on. Jake seems to plan on moving on without us anyway. Hopefully in time he'll understand what he did wrong, but I can't change his mind for him. I did run into my son's ex Sarah at a random place in town. She spotted me while I was with one of my friends in the middle of the local shopping mall. She called out to me while we were in front of a bunch of people and started booing me and calling me a greedy miser. I didn't really have to say anything to her because my friend laughed at her and called her a thief and a gold digger who just wanted my dead wife's ring because she couldn't have it. I saw half the crowd turn to look at her at once when he said that. Sarah flipped us off and stormed away while cursing my name and knocking over anything in her path. This included a small child, who started crying in an instant. When she realized she'd hurt the kid, Sarah took off running. My friend and I helped the very pregnant mother of the child in calming the kid down, and thankfully the kid was okay. Sarah showed up at my house later to yell that it's all my fault. Her friends are all saying she's a gold digger now and won't hang out with her anymore. I said she is a gold digger because of what she did. She never had a right to my wife's ring, and she cried for days about it like a child, then broke up with my son just because he couldn't afford what she wanted. That's all something a gold digger would do. I'm not at fault just because she wanted my dead wife's ring so bad. And I'll make damn sure she never sees it again. What came next was more unintelligible screaming from her as she stomped back to her car. I'd hoped that was the end of it, but that girl just wouldn't leave well enough alone. For those thinking Sarah and Jake's personality shifts were due to drugs, I'm not sure whether or not to tell you I'm sorry that isn't the case. It was all of them. Which in Jake's case is a harder pill to swallow because it means he has no excuse for such a radical shift in behavior. Sarah was arrested last week for attempting to break into my house. The cameras I had installed caught her sneaking into my backyard and trying to break in. She tried to break open my back door with an axe and that tripped the alarm I had installed. She ran off, but the cameras in front of the house caught video of both her and her car very clearly in my driveway. She also left the axe with her fingerprints on it on the ground before she ran. When police got there, she was long gone, but they later found her at her apartment. They initially just wanted to arrest her for breaking my door and trespassing, but she went crazy on them and wound up getting pinned to the ground and frog marched out. This woman definitely has something mentally wrong with her. A few days after Sarah was arrested, I spoke to her parents again. They offered to pay for the broken door and then filled me in on some of the details. It seems drugs were not involved. They told me she was given drug tests at the station and her system came back clean. Since she wasn't on drugs, I don't think Jake was either, but Sarah was found to be very mentally unwell. So, I guess it was just her crazy that was contagious. Her parents promised me that I'll never have to deal with her again as they plan to move her out of town once they've dealt with the legalities of her situation. They haven't contacted me again since, but I wouldn't say it's my business that they do either. I'm guessing though that Sarah likely needs major mental health treatment. So, in a sense I do feel a little sorry for her now. I knew Jake had to be aware of what happened to Sarah since everyone was talking about it, but he had not reached out to any friends or family. One of the people he works with has contacted me though and told me Jake is still openly very angry about what happened. He still believes the ring would have been a small price to pay for his happiness. Now that Sarah has been taken away, Jake has also shifted blame onto her, saying she's the crazy gold-digging woman who ruined his life. It seems all he can do is blame, and blame other people some more. Until he accepts fault in his own actions, then I don't think we can have a relationship. He's not going to do well in life if he can't take responsibility for his own actions. I just hope that some time alone wherever he chooses to go will help him to mellow out and understand where he went wrong. This is likely to be my last update here, unless something else goes wrong. And if no new posts show up in the coming months or years, then you'll all know everything is fine. At least as much as it can be, considering the situation.
Update.
I was hoping for no more drama or anything of the like, but it just didn't stop. Yes, Jake sold his condo. For how much I don't know, but he probably made a profit flipping it. And last Saturday he pretty much just took whatever he could fit in his car and left. From what I know, the last few weeks have been hectic for my son. People all over town know what he did, because the gossip train never stopped. At one point Jake nearly got in a fight with a man at a bar because this guy called him out in front of everyone there. I tried to take the initiative by going to see him one last time. I hoped maybe we could talk things out and make amends before he left town. Because at this point I'd realized his moving away was the best thing he could do for himself. He'd already destroyed his own reputation, and he's better off starting over somewhere else. But when I got there and knocked on his door, he refused to open it. I tried to say I only wanted to talk, and he told me through the door that there was nothing to talk about, other than the fact I ruined his life. There was a bit of a pause where he was only speaking intermittently, then he suddenly went on a rant about the ring, and how I should have just let Sarah keep it. Then went on to say that I should have also offered to help pay for the copy. But it didn't matter anymore. Sarah was confirmed crazy, and they're through for good. Just like he's through with me and his sister. Well, that got me mad, and I retorted that what he did was unacceptable. He assaulted his sister while stealing that ring from my house, for crying out loud. He's lucky I didn't have him arrested for that. And literally everyone who knew what he did was against him. That's the kind of red flag that shows you are in the wrong on a city-wide scale. Then I told him to drop the act he's put up for the sake of pride. I said that I don't know if he rushed things with Sarah because he missed his mother, or because he's now the age I was when he was born, or whatever other reason he could have. But the fact still remains that he knew what he did was wrong, and just won't admit it. And I'm tired of trying to stick up for him. I didn't escalate the situation with anyone. He and Sarah did that. I'm tired of being blamed by him for his own wrongdoings. That's the sort of thing narcissists and cowards do. His mother and I raised him better than that, and he should know that his mother wouldn't have approved of his actions. But she's not here to say it. It doesn't matter who you are. If you steal something that's not yours, you can't go blaming the person you stole from for being mad about it and doing whatever they have to in order to get it back. There was a silent pause on Jake's end for a few seconds, and then he said, "F you, Dad." After he said that, I could hear him crying and hitting things inside. That's when I noticed down the hall that one of Jake's neighbors was poking her head out her door. And she went back inside the moment I looked at her. Yeah, this'll end up right back in the gossip train. Jake refused to say anything more to me, so I just left. But when I was leaving the building, a police car pulled up right in front of the condo building. 2 officers got out of the car and asked my name. When I told them who I was, they said they had been called by someone in the building saying I was trying to break into their apartment. I said I had an argument with my son through his door. But I didn't once try to force my way in, and I only touched the door to knock. I told the whole story of what happened, and then pointed out which neighbor had been watching and listening. And that the building had CCTV. One of the officers went up to talk to the neighbor, while the other detained me with cuffs. He was very polite and said that the cuffs were just to make sure, since they don't know who's telling the truth. I said he's just doing his job, and he let me sit down on a bench nearby while we waited. The officer who went in the building called on the walkie after about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm not sure since I couldn't look at my watch, but he said that the neighbor's story more or less matched mine. And there was apparently more than one neighbor who was listening in who corroborated the same story. Then said he was going to talk to the building security and check the CCTV for that hallway. This took a fair bit longer. Again, I couldn't look at my watch. I just sat waiting on a bench near the entrance. But the kind officer pulled up a radio app on his cell phone and let me listen to it for a while to pass the time. The other officer finally called back on the walkie and told his partner to uncuff me because the CCTV had cleared me. He said that while the audio wasn't great, you could see and hear enough to show I never once tried to force my way in. I was uncuffed, and after the other officer got back, the two of them briefly spoke to each other for a moment, then asked if I was the guy whose son stole his dead mother's ring. I confirmed I am, and asked how they knew. Then they both said that they'd heard about it through the grapevine, and after hearing my version of events, they put two and two together. One of them said he was in the office the day Sarah was arrested. Apparently she was acting like a wild animal and trying to bite at them. And she made several threats from, "Do you know who my parents are?" to, "I'm going to castrate you," although castrate isn't the actual word or words she used. I could only look embarrassed by it all. The officers told me to just go home, and that I was probably better off not coming back. I just nodded and left. I saw the police go back into the building as I was leaving. Likely to talk to Jake. I know it was him who called the police, because his neighbors messaged me later on social media saying that the officers gave him a solid chewing out for wasting police time to the point he was crying again. And I guess they also pointed out the ring incident and said that what he did was pretty low. I'm not sure how Jake took that, but it sounds like he heavily embellished what was going on when he called the police. And from the time I first arrived to when the police got there, he had to have called them right around when we started talking through the door. He's beyond lucky they didn't arrest him for calling them over under false pretenses. I went home and was comforted by my daughter Amber. And she told me I tried, and it's not my fault Jake has gone bad. But it still hurt. I may have lost my son permanently. I ended up taking a day off work and locked myself in my office to play Dragon Warrior 1 on a NES emulator and eat vanilla ice cream to try and unwind. My son left town over the weekend. I may never see him again. But if I do, I hope he understands that I will always care about him. Yes, he wronged me. But I'm still his father. He could come to my door tomorrow wanting to talk, and I'd let him in. I just hope that day doesn't take 10 or 20 years. Added information. Some have wondered how small of a town I live in for things to have spread so fast. It's actually not that small of a town. More of a slightly below average sized city. But one thing that made it possible for word to spread so fast was family. I personally come from a small family, but my wife came from one that's quite frankly huge, and very close-knit. When I tell you that her extended family is everywhere around the city, I am not exaggerating. I can run into one of them at any given time just walking around or going to the store. And a lot of these relatives are the type to love gossip. And when my son went looking for familial support for his actions online, that's when the gossip train started. First, they told Jake off for what he'd done. Then they started telling everybody they knew what happened. I never wanted it to escalate like that. But it just did so on its own. It just turned into one of those 15 minutes of infamy situations for Jake and should have died down quickly. But my son's ex Sarah only made it worse by telling everyone she knew in order to try and get support. That basically doubled the problems as both of them lost all their friends over the situation. And so many people I don't know messaged me that I never gave my contact details to. I have no idea how they got them, but it doesn't really matter anymore. Now that my son has left, people have simmered down about it. I managed to get most of the extended family to take down their social media posts about Jake within the first week or two. But by then the damage had already been done anyway. I put out the word asking people to remove any posts made about the situation and essentially begged them to just let this end. I didn't want to be in the spotlight. I just wanted things to go back to normal. But the escalation by both Jake and Sarah only made things worse. Also, some wondered about the guy who recognized Jake in a bar and started a conflict with him. I've heard he was a neighbor of one of Jake's former friends. So it's no surprise he knew what Jake looked like if that really is the case. And yes, despite my age I do enjoy some old video games. I don't own any of the old consoles anymore. But I keep some of the games I loved when I was young as ROMs to play on my PC. They're a good way to unwind once in a while. Neither of my kids have had an interest in these old games. And my wife never cared for them either. So it was pretty much just me that likes them. But I don't play them frequently anyway. I play through Dragon Warrior once or twice a year at most. And I usually fast play it with cheat codes because I am not a skilled player. Never have been. Even used the old game Genie back in the day.
Update.
I did not expect to make another post on this account ever again, let alone once as soon after what was supposed to be my final update. But I was recently messaged by someone on social media using a burner account that said they had some extra details on Jake and Sarah that I didn't know. They wouldn't say who they are, other than the fact that they were someone close to Sarah. I was just hoping to put a bookend to this situation, and then here comes someone anonymous playing the deep throat informant. So, I can't confirm or deny any of this information I got from them. From what they told me, apparently Sarah's parents are loaded. Well, the person stated my son Jake was only still with Sarah despite her being abusive and crazy because her parents are wealthy. Meaning, he was also acting like a gold digger. They said that he needed as impressive of a ring as possible to woo Sarah with. I'm not sure I want to believe it, but it feels like it makes sense on some level. If Jake wanted to marry into wealth, then a lot of his behavior as of late really seems to fit the situation now. I can't say if all of what was said is actually true, but if it is, it would mean that my son never really loved Sarah, and it was all about money. Sigh, isn't it always these days? But in the end, I'm not sure it would have panned out the way Jake wanted. The person who messaged me said that Sarah was the black sheep of her family, a spoiled brat with endless demands, which is why her parents sent her to live out here to work a job and have a taste of real life. She was apparently extremely pissed off at them for not bankrolling her life anymore. The person messaging me said that Sarah figured that if she got married, her parents would accept her back, but she had such a high maintenance standard for potential partners that she couldn't hold one for long. Jake was the last in a line of several. She only started dating Jake because he had his own condo. So it was kind of a two-way gold digger situation, with Jake hoping to make bank by marrying her, and her hoping to get married so she could get back into her parents' pockets. I have a hard time wrapping my head around this. All of that kind of calls into question Sarah's parents saying she was once a good kid. Maybe she was, and then went crazy in her teens or something. I don't know. This could just be someone yanking my chain for fun, or it's possibly the whole reason my son tried to rush into marrying Sarah. Either way, it's left me with more questions about my son than ever, but he isn't here to answer them anymore. So I'm just distraught about the whole situation. My daughter Amber said that she believes what this person told me and that Jake has acted like he wanted to be rich ever since he inherited money from his mother after she passed. I think I'm going to need another day of retro gaming on my PC and some tubs of ice cream. Amber said cherry ice cream would be more fitting than vanilla this time. Not sure if that's some other modern reference I don't understand, but I think I just need a mental break. I'd like to take a vacation to the coast. I don't have the time right now, maybe in the spring. I am beyond seriously hoping this is the last update I have to post. I just want to be done with this situation. I'm going to be having Christmas without my son for the first time in over 20 years. It's even sadder that my wife is gone too, just me and my daughter now. At least my wife's extended family are very supportive, and we'll be seeing them soon on Christmas Eve.
My opinion. This girl feels so spoiled. I'm glad she's out of your son's wife. I mean, this ring can be very beautiful and expensive, but wanting something that does not belong to you so badly is not healthy at all. Even if your son is a gold digger himself, well, probably he was spoiled by her as well. Or by some of his own fantasies. Marriages with such people never ends well. So I'm glad that the ring is returned and that everything was finished more or less okay for all of you. I hope your son will come to you to say sorry, because he was not right here. I'm almost sure it will happen sooner or later when he analyze and understand what has happened there. What are your thoughts about this story? Let me know in the comment box below.